Hey there, Pod Pals. Do you feel like you could use a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or with converting your podcast listeners into becoming your best clients? I want you to head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and watch the 4-minute video that talks about who I help and exactly how I can help them out. Next, I want you to click on the Discovery Call button to set up a free podcast profit potential discovery call where we can talk about working together to help you reach your podcasting and online business goals. Head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for your free podcast profit potential discovery call. What's up, Pod Pals? It's your buddy Adam, and you are listening to Podcasting Business School. It's the show where I teach podcasters how to love their podcast like a hobby and build it like a business. If you are a service provider and you're looking to learn how to leverage your podcast to build your online business and get more clients, you're in the right spot. Today, we've got a podcast audit episode with my pod pal Sandy from the Breath of Fresh Air podcast. Sandy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much. It's so terrific to be here with you, Adam. Thanks for having me.
Well, I say we get right to work here. From the notes that you sent me, it looks like we're looking at getting some more podcast growth. Is that still the main goal that you're going after?
Yeah. I chat to some fabulous people, and there are just not enough people listening to these guys.
Okay. So let's dive in a little bit. I kind of want to look at what you're doing now, where you're at right now compared to where you want to get to. And let's see if we can bridge the gap with some ideas for implementation. Does that sound cool?
Awesome. Sounds good.
All right. So first things first, like who should be listening to your podcast? Who's the ideal target listener?
Music lovers of any age, but particularly those who grew up in the 70s and 80s, I guess, even 60s. I take people for a walk down memory lane with the biggest artists in the world who made pretty much the soundtrack of our lives.
Okay. And so what are you currently doing to promote the show? It's like a new episode goes live. How are we telling people about it?
Well, I've got a 30,000 strong following on Facebook. So I certainly let them all know that that's happening. I do a short little reel for YouTube, and I put the whole episode up on YouTube also. I do a little bit of Instagram, not too much, with a short clip. X or Twitter doesn't really seem to work very well for me. That's pretty much it. I guess most of my followers, being in the age bracket of 50 plus, are still hanging out on Facebook.
Yeah.
So I go where they are. But a lot of the times I feel like I'm already preaching to the converted. So I guess I've got a website, and putting up a transcript on the website seems to drive more people to the website, where you can also listen to the episodes. But that's really about all I'm doing at the moment.
Okay. I mean, that seems like you're putting some good promotion into it. Is that a Facebook group, or is that just your personal Facebook?
It's a Facebook. It's a professional Facebook page.
Okay. And that's for
and I belong. Sorry, I omitted to say that I belong to loads of Facebook groups that are appropriate to what I'm putting out. So I do share with all of them too, from online radio station groups to podcast groups to 70s music groups to rockers of all ages groups. So I do spread it through a whole bunch of stuff there. I also appear sometimes, not a lot, on other people's podcasts to kind of promote too. So I've been listening to you for a really long time, and I feel like I'm following your instructions. But it's growing kind of 1 or 2 or 3 subscribers a week. It's a really slow burn.
Yeah, and that's typical in the podcasting journey. But the thing that's really triggering my mind right now with ideas is, like, it seems like you got access to quite a few people. Like you say, 30,000 people on Facebook.
Yeah.
Now how's the engagement over there? So if you post, hey, new episode, featuring this topic, are you getting a lot of comments on there, or is it kind of crickets?
Yeah, no, I am. And it depends on who I talk to as to how they respond. But no, I'm getting kind of between 50 and 100 likes and lots of comments around there too. And then I follow that up, as you say, within the first 72 hours with a music clip from one of the artists. So it's like, hey, do you remember this one that Spencer Davis put out, or do you remember this one from back in the day? And they really, those music clips get a lot of reaction. People really love those.
Okay.
So I'm certainly doing that every week.
Now, what kind of download numbers are we looking at for the show, for per episode, just so I can kind of gauge of, okay, we've got access to 30,000 people. How many people are actually listening on a consistent basis? What kind of numbers are we talking about?
I don't know. It's hosted on Spotify. And as you know, I don't think Spotify aggregate listeners. I mean, I can tell you how many people are jumping onto the website, and I'm assuming listening as a result of that, and that kind of runs around 2,000. On Spotify itself, it shows that I have like 500 subscribers. Apple show another, 250. The various other platforms show a few more.
Okay.
I don't get what I'm doing wrong there too. And I was thinking maybe it's because I'm being hosted on Spotify. Maybe I need to be hosted somewhere else where they do aggregate and I can see my listening audience a little more clearly.
Well, I think just to hit that question, do you have a goal of gaining sponsorships and things like that? Is that one of your monetization strategies? Or
yeah, well, as everybody, I would certainly love to do that, but
okay.
I know that without being able to see 10,000 blatantly in front of my eyes, it's just not going to happen.
Yeah. So if that becomes a serious goal that you want to pursue, then switching to like a Libsyn or a Buzzsprout, like one of the paid services, they're going to have much better and more accurate analytics because they're going to want to see, all right, our ad just ran in an episode. How many downloads did that get after the last 7 days, the last 30 days, the last 60 days? Yeah. They're going to want that kind of information that's going to be a little bit deeper than what Spotify
Adam,
has.
can I ask you do those hosting platforms actually help elevate the listenership? Is there a difference in the algorithms or whatever that makes a difference being on there too?
Yeah, this is a great question. I don't think it's an algorithm thing. There's like one example is Spotify limits the characters in your host description. So in the about this podcast section, we can get lots and lots of keywords in there and do some things to help optimize for Google search. Yeah. So since Spotify limits that, it limits that ability, which does impact the algorithm and SEO and things like that. So like on Libsyn or Buzzsprout, it's not unlimited, but you can get a lot more in there, and the more keywords, the better. So that's something. And Spotify limits how many categories you can be listed in. I think they limit it just one. Yes, and a lot of them can get you listed in 2 or 3. And the categories you're listed in are the ones that you can get ranked in. So if you have an episode that really goes well, then it pops up on the top 200 list and more people see it. So those are some limiting factors. I think also ease of distribution with the paid service. Like I use Libsyn, but there's like 2 or 3 really, really good ones. Buzzsprout is another one that does really, really well. But if there's a new, like a couple of years back, a new podcast player app in India launched, and they sent me an email. They're like, hey, listen, you just need to go and click a few buttons to opt in to have your show on this podcast player app. There are literally millions of people in India that are scooping up podcasts. You need to be on this app because it's targeting listeners from India. So I was like, click, click, click. Okay, now I'm on that. And so they make it very easy, and they make you aware of all the different platforms you need to be on. So that's another thing I like about the paid hosting services. And, for an investment of $20 US, a month or so, it's not they're not asking for hundreds of dollars or anything like that. So something to consider. So now I think we've got a clear goal. You've got access to, tens of thousands of people through Facebook that we want to convert over into just obsessed listeners of your show. And we may be getting, around 1% or even a little bit less. So I think if we can even just nudge that up and go, okay, now we're getting 3% or 5% of these people to listen to your show. And I think looking at opportunities to engage those people and stand out from other music-based podcasts, I think that would be a real, like, how are we different? How are we becoming the people's show for this genre of music? How are we becoming that show that they want to be a part of the ecosystem? Those are the types of questions I would challenge you to ask yourself and really think
Can
about
I
audience engagement.
can
Yeah, go ahead.
I interject there? I have already considered those questions, and what I do in answer to that is that I do shout outs all the time asking people who they'd like to hear interviewed. And I'm inundated with emails regularly. So I get a lot of listener feedback. I have to say that this podcast is also a radio show. So I'm never sure whether they're listening to it on the radio at 165 radio stations around the world or through the podcast. But either way, I'm getting a lot of feedback from listeners saying, yeah, could you talk to this person or that person? And then when I do get that person on the line for them, I go back to the listener and say, well, would you like to join me and chat and say hello to your hero also? So very often that's what's happening too. So there's that engagement with my listener that makes it very personal and provides an opportunity for them not only just to tune into it, but to be part of the show.
Yeah, and I think that's fantastic. I think another thing you could do is, maybe some people are nervous about that and like, oh my gosh,
They are.
I'd be
Yeah.
scared. You could have them submit just an
Their
audio.
questions.
Yeah. And
Oh, audio I don't
yeah,
get them to do, but questions they do send me
yeah,
via email, and I put them and I give them a shout out on the podcast too.
yeah,
Yeah, audio is a great idea. I've heard you do
yeah.
that.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that way they have their voice on there, and they still, it's
Yeah.
the next best thing to,
Yeah,
they get to hear their voice, and then the famous rock star or
yeah,
whoever like answers it like, wow, that was cool.
yeah,
So
yeah,
that's going to generate super fan
yeah.
opportunities. So yeah, I think you're thinking along the right lines there. The other thing we need to really look at is the organic discoverability factor, like with keywords in the name of the show. So
I knew you were going to say
full
this.
full name of the show, A Breath of Fresh Air. Is that the entire name of the show?
No, I did. Having listened to you, I can't change that name, although I hear you and I understand that if nobody's searching for a breath of fresh air when they're looking for warm classic rock interviews, right? But I can't change it. That's my brand. It's been around for a few years now, and I can't change that. But what I did do, a proper your advice was put a subheading kind of with it saying
Good.
warm classic rock interviews with the music stars of the 60s, 70s, and 80s that
Good.
explains that. Yeah.
Good. Now, I think that is huge, and that's going to help with the organic discoverability quite a bit, and that's going to help with just the right listener showing up and finding you. So yeah, I mean, I think you've got a lot of the key things in place. Like you're focusing. It seems like you're really dialing in with audience engagement. We've got organic discoverability. I do think if you switched out of Spotify and had more room in that host description to get more keywords in there, and also I would name drop, people that you have interviewed or had on the show, especially
In
if
the
they,
description.
yeah, like I have interviewed people.
Yeah,
I
okay.
have tune in for conversations, or like, we want to be able to put the names in there, but we don't. What you cannot do, which is you'll get in trouble with Apple Podcasts. You can't put the name of somebody. You can't put like Oprah Winfrey if you haven't interviewed Oprah Winfrey, because people used to do that, and it really
No.
was kind of a cheat code.
Right.
So
I don't need to do that. I've got
yeah,
like 150 to 200 big name artists
yeah.
there that are draw power all on their own. Yeah.
So, I mean, I think you could leverage their names and go, here are some recommended episodes,
Yeah. Okay.
and then just drop the name, Peter Frampton episode, blah, 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 or, whatever, like
Yeah.
have the big name and then say which episode they're in. And obviously you're not going to like link it or anything. You don't need to do that, but just like they're on your feed already. Just go to that episode and making sure your episodes are numbered. So if it's episode 152, then they can go right to it. Because if they don't have a number, it's going to be darn near impossible for them to find it. So that's something to where if you have a virtual assistant or somebody just to go in and just update them real quick, it's not gonna take that long. And then so that's something that
Okay.
because they can't right now, and not in every podcast player app can they search that person's name and then pull up that episode. It's not going to work that way. I'm hoping we get there, and I feel like we're going to get there soon. But right now we got to have numbers for them to find it quickly. So, but even just like you could even just post the date, so that they could see the date posted, and you need to give them a quick
They could go
reference.
by date. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
good.
Check out my episode with XYZ famous person
Cool.
from October, 8th of 2019
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
So that way
Okay.
they can scroll through
Get back
and
to
see
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
But that way we leverage the name with those keywords. Obviously you want to put the name of the famous people in the podcast episode title itself. What about like email marketing, newsletters, things like that? Are we doing anything like that?
Yeah, I just started that. I've just had a young boy from Bangladesh on Upwork help me to do that in MailChimp, and I again, it's not something that I've paid for. It's I've got my 500 recipients there. And so I'm just starting to send out. It's a bit of a catch-22, as you would well know, because if you're not making money, and I'm obviously spending money on my audio engineer, so the show sounds really schmick, I could pay for this and that, and as everybody could, and then you're just bleeding money for no return. So at the moment, I'll just see what happens with this 500 strong audience on the email list and see if it's worth paying to upgrade that, because I've certainly got a list of names that I can add. And all I've started doing with that is, coming up next week, just giving them advance notice of who's coming up, and, look out for these ones coming up in the future, and a couple of lines about them. And then it links back to the website saying, here are past episodes, check them out. I don't know. And I've just done another call out there saying, if there's someone you'd like to hear interviewed, send me an email, let me know, and I'll get them onto the show for you.
I think that's a great base. I think the way you make a weekly email or weekly newsletter stand out is that you lead with value. So what's the value add that isn't a promotion? That's kind of the challenge, where you go, okay, maybe we start off with Sandy's music hot take of the week, and it doesn't have to be about the episode or anything. It could just be like, what just has your musical mind going right now? What are you listening to? What are you loving? What are you diving back into your favorite era? Or maybe it's like a string, almost like a blog post type, where you're like, for the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we're going to dive in to my favorite classic rock from 1965. And I'm going to go through my 3 favorite artists and it's just something that they're not going to get on the show, but that also you actually enjoy writing. That's really important, because if you don't enjoy writing it, it's going to come through, and they're not going to enjoy reading what you don't enjoy writing. But if it's just a little blurb, a few paragraphs, and just I do mine every Thursday. I kind of sip on my coffee a little bit, get my brain waves going, and I just write what I want to write. And when I'm done writing, I'm done writing. But then when I'm done enjoying writing, I'm done writing, and that comes through. And my people enjoy getting my newsletter every Thursday, and they look forward to it, and they open it. And the thing is, they don't open it because of a clickbaity email title. They open it because they see it came from me. Right. And that's a level that we want to get to. So my open rate is really, really high.
What is that rate? What should you be aiming for?
I mean, it's different for each niche, but like 30% open rate is really good with email marketing, and mine's at 70 plus for my newsletter that comes out every Thursday. So I think you could talk to your audience a little bit on this too. Like, what would you want to read if I were to send an email, a newsletter? Maybe it's a story that wasn't aired, or like a connection that you had, or a concert that you went to one time, or something that's connected to the genre or the episode that you recently talked about, but it's not something that they're going to get on the podcast. It's like backstage, it's like the VIP pass backstage at the rock concert with Sandy, and like they're getting that extra info from I like that concept quite a bit. And then you could still go, hey, here's next week's episode that's coming up. I kind of have like a bulletin of updates. That's totally normal for a newsletter, but lead with content, that thing that they're like, oh my gosh, I can't wait until Sandy's newsletter comes out. I enjoy reading it every Saturday. And it's like the backstage pass newsletter with Sandy K. And we're going to, she's going to take us backstage with her thoughts on whatever topic this week, and kind of that extra access. I think that's another engagement opportunity to pull people in. It's another promotional opportunity because we can still promote our episodes. I
Well,
like it.
you know what I could do? Every week I'm live on radio across Australia doing an entertainment segment, and I've got to prepare scripts for that anyway. I could simply put that into my newsletter because my podcast subscribers are not getting that at all. So
Yeah.
I could, that is kind of backstage, a roundup
Yep.
of music and entertainment from
Yeah.
everywhere. Okay. And that would
Yeah.
be minimal work. That's good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
And the way we connect the dots to monetization with this is if you're building different assets that are attractive to sponsors. And one of them is your audio show. We have a radio show. We've got lots and lots of people on Facebook. You build that email list up. Now we can say, hey, I would love to have a brand immersion partnership. And not only are you going to get an audio ad on my show, but you get a shout out in my weekly newsletter. And you're also going to get some exposure inside my Facebook page, which has 30,000 people following. Like now we've got multiple
Something to
assets
sell.
that they
Right.
see. Yeah, exactly. And it's not just how many subscribers do you have. Ooh, that's not
Yeah.
enough. I'm not even going to talk to you. It's more about overall exposure. And this is how you can start at least breaking even
Okay.
and getting the services you're investing in and your paid hosting service and your VA and everything paid for. And then we can actually start profiting. So I think, you've already got a nice social media following, you know exactly where you want to be, which is Facebook. You got your radio show and your podcast, audio, community building. And then we start working on this email list. Those are 3 really nice assets that you can package together and say, would you like exposure across all of these
I hear you.
with a very target audience of people in a very specific demographic and age group, which is attractive.
Yeah. Adam, you mentioned a VA. I don't have currently. It's just me putting on all these hours and hours of work. What do you get your VA assistant to do for you? How do they help?
Well, I mean, you mentioned you had somebody from Upwork, helping you out, setting things up like that. Any of those sorts of tasks, like people can use a VA for editing and production. So for your show, as far as like taking the audio, creating social media assets, helping with the newsletter, maybe I'm a big fan of, I like the artist, the host, the main talent writing the newsletter. I think that I always make a joke of, I actually write my newsletter. It's not my 13-year-old VA from the Philippines. It's actually me. So I like that, but they can still curate information. So if you have it's almost like a written talk show, and there are segments of your written talk show, which is your newsletter. And, maybe you have a new artist section that you want to shout out, and you have your VA out there looking for new potential artists, and they come back to you with 5 and they go, which one do you want to do out of the 5? So they can help you curate content for social media, for your show, for your newsletter, whatever.
Right. Got it. Okay.
We want you to be featured in the parts of your brand that only Sandy can be like the star of. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the talent. So if there's something behind the scenes that you can delegate that doesn't need to be you, that's where we can tag in a VA.
Yeah, got it.
Got it. So I think you are close, girl. Like, you are you got a lot of stuff.
It doesn't feels like I'm tearing my hair out and just, pedaling fast and kind of 1 step forward, 2 steps back a little bit. All right, I just have to keep pushing forward, don't we? That's all there is. It's a very frustrating business podcast.
Yeah. What would let's set a goal for a win. Like, what would feel like a win for you? I would be like getting any sort of a sponsorship. Would that feel like a win for you? I like that better than setting a download number, because we're just a little bit vague on where we're at anyway on that. Like, we're still figuring that out.
Exactly.
I mean, honestly, what I would do if I were you, like, think about, I would make a top 10 list of potential brands that you think you would love to partner with and that would love to partner with you. Don't worry about the size of all your stuff yet. Just like, if all of that was perfect, you'd love to partner with them. They would love to partner with you. It makes sense. And then, like, we got to start figuring out ways to build relationships with those brands and just start planting seeds. and
Well, that's a
going,
problem too. My major listening audience is where you are in the US. I mean, the biggest problem is that if the audience, the largest segment of my audience are baby boomers. Baby boomers don't know too much about podcasts, and they know more in the US than anywhere else in the world, than in Canada and the UK, than in Australia, New Zealand, right? So the potential sponsors that I would see as my best fit, because 60% of my audience is in the US, are in the US. I can't go in cold calling them from little me here in Australia going, hey, we'd work really well together. Um, that's another issue. I kind of need to be able to walk in, and I mean, if I knocked on their door in Los Angeles, California, I'd have a whole lot more luck than typing them an email that's going to be ignored because it's coming in cold.
well, I think there are ways around that. And one of my favorite routes to take is inviting people to come on your show and collaborate. So, in some way, shape, or form, could you figure out, and it doesn't even have to be on your show. Again, this is where like your newsletter shout outs or your social media can really be used effectively, where you're like, or maybe inside your Facebook page, you do a giveaway and you reach out to potential sponsors to do like, so whatever it is that they offer, like we're going to give away a discount code or free access, or I want to become an affiliate of you guys, and just like adding value first, getting them exposure first to your brand in some way, shape, or form, making friends and just developing relationships. This is what I did a lot with my health podcast when I first started.
Right, right.
I just reached out to people. We all get the Instagram ads that like, ooh, I really like that. And, that company seems pretty cool. And I do my research. I'm like, I think we could be potential partners there. So I would find ways, like I would do a product review on my Instagram and go, hey, obviously I would only do that if it was a positive review. I'm not going to go in there and bash somebody and then ask them to sponsor my show. But like, I really love this supplement. It helped me sleep better or whatever, and do a little review. I would tag them. They would reply back, hey, thanks, we appreciate that. And I'd be like, hey, like I'm doing this online summit coming up. Would love to have you on, or I'd love to go live with you on Instagram, or I would love to have you into my Facebook group to chat and teach a little bit more about what you do. Do you have an affiliate program? At no point in time am I going, hey, I want you to sponsor me. I'm just like, let's add some value. Let's give some value. Like I've got, a newsletter that I put out. I would love to get a little blurb. Like, can you do a little written interview? Maybe you have a little template Google form for them to fill out that you pull from and write a little segment in your newsletter that's like brand partner or friends of the brand shout out or something like that. Like I like all that stuff, and we just got to look for opportunities for that.
Can you think offhand? I mean, the major audience are men over 50. What do men over 50 need? What goes well with men over 50 other than music?
I would be reaching out to, I think fitness brands, health brands that are targeting that demographic, because that's an age when men really start focusing on health, physical health, mental health, confidence, all that stuff. So, relationships, anything like you hear a lot of podcasts are being sponsored by like BetterHelp, which is an online therapy,
and they do a lot of sponsoring.
Yeah. So like reaching out to them and going, hey, my main demographic, and just, there's nothing to lose by reaching out and saying, hey, my main demographic is this. I'm looking for opportunities to showcase people that, like yourself, that are helping people. And I would love to figure out a collaborative opportunity where I can just show you some value first. I'm not asking for a sponsorship. I want to show you value first. And like, that's talk about a breath of fresh air. Like that's going to be, they're used to getting pitched and like asked for money and all this stuff. So I think you leading with value and free collaboration opportunities, people are going to be into that.
And would you reach out via email or via the phone? How would you do that?
I would reach out via email. I've had a lot of luck on social media, honestly, where I reach out, with a direct message or a voice message on like an Instagram DM or something like that. I would just try some stuff and just be like, nothing to lose. They're already not paying me. So by asking them to collaborate and look at partnership opportunities, and maybe this is a thing where you go, all right, I am going to do some sort of virtual summit or something, or a pre-recorded, summit or course or something where you invite people in to be experts talking about something, and you are able to host that and collect people's email address, but you're showcasing people, um, you know, and just working on ways to build your email list, but also create collaborative opportunities where you can invite somebody and go, hey, I'd love for you to speak. Like I got one of my health sponsors because I did an event and they were in the infrared sauna business. I'm like, I would love for you to come in and teach about the technology of your infrared saunas to my audience. And they came in person and taught, and they brought a sauna, and they left the sauna for me to have, and like all this stuff. And it was, and they never asked how many people listen to your podcast and how many people are on your
Right.
email list or anything like that, because I
So,
wasn't asking anything from them.
so when you did that virtual summit, how did you know how many people were going to tune into it ahead of time? I mean, you may not have had anybody there. Didn't
Exactly.
matter.
Yeah.
You
I
just took
mean,
a punt.
yeah. And you got to think, like, what's the main purpose of doing something like that? Really, the main purpose is you want to start building relationships with these people. And if it's pre-recorded, you don't have a live audience there, if you have 20 people show up, or 100 people, or 1,000 or 10,000, anything is bonus. But what you're trying to do is create something that you could use. It's evergreen. You could use it again and again and again when your audience is bigger. You could use it as a lead magnet anytime that you wanted to. And that's another nice thing that you can promote to these people, is like, I'm going to use this as an ongoing lead magnet moving forward to get people on my email list, and people are going to see your summit presentation over and over and over again. So yeah, I think it's worth exploring, at least.
And what about doing live events on social media, on YouTube or on Facebook and
Yeah.
that sort of stuff?
Yeah. I think going live and doing any sort of collaborative event there, a live summit, I think all those things are definitely worth
Worthwhile.
exploring. Yeah. Yep. For
Oh,
sure.
God. I
For
could be
sure.
working on this 24 hours, 7 days a week, no
Yes.
problem, as I'm sure you do.
Yeah. We all obsess over. I think finding the area of low hanging fruit is important. And I think the baby step that I'd love to see you really pursue aggressively is, how can I get a foothold in this relationship building and networking with potential sponsors? Like, how can we just start getting conversations where you're adding value first, they're excited about it, and once you have a few of those doors open up, I think you'll gain confidence and you'll get more creative, and you'll get more creative ideas about the best way for you to do this. But I think that would be a really good focus point. And even if you just get some free product out of it, or something that you can do a giveaway with, anything like that, I would consider that a win and a confidence builder. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, right. You've been
All
really
right.
helpful. Thank you.
Good, good. Well, I want to make sure we save a minute for you to shout out your website, your brand, your show. If people want to come and support you, where should they go, Sandy?
So they should, well, to any of the platforms that host podcasts, I'm all over all of them. I've worked hard on that, but also to the website, which you can listen to the episodes and read about the people that you're about to or have listened to. It's called abreathofreshair.com.au, because I'm here in Australia and you've got to put that little AU in. And so far, a lot of Americans have managed to remember that, which is a great thing. I know that doesn't come into the collective consciousness too easily.
Yeah.
But I really do have some fabulous artists, and they're really warm, open, candid, honest, and intimate interviews with people like Kim Carnes and Alice Cooper and Peter Frampton, as you mentioned, and Gordon Lightfoot before he passed. My mission is really to create an archive for these aging rock stars, some of whom have already passed away, and we're losing them daily. So my tagline is their lives, their stories, their music told in their voices. And it's for music lovers to listen to today, but also for future music lovers to go into where they can listen to these guys' lives, how they made it, how they struggled, how they didn't give up, what the songs were about. They just go where they want to go and tell their whole stories in a beautifully open, intimate way. And I feel like it's kind of my mission to put them on the front page, or even if it's on the back page at the moment, but it's there forever. At the moment, I'm cutting music in with their stories, and I bought myself a little podcast license, but all of a sudden Spotify's come down on me and says, hey girl, you can't be using this music, which is a shame because it's a fabulous 52-minute package every week that really showcases them and their work. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get around that one, but we'll see what comes in the future with that.
Yeah. Well, Sandy, it seems that you're just very, very passionate about your message and your show and your brand and the, the artists that you're featuring. So I think that's, as long as you can keep that passion, then good things are going to happen. That's what I am feeling for you there. And all the pod pals out there listening in, go and support Sandy, check out her show. And if you want to do a podcast audit, just like our pod pal Sandy here, head on over to the website, podcastingbusiness.school, click on the freebie button, and then you can find the podcast audit sign up right there. We'd love to have you on the show. All right. So with that, I'm going to send everybody out into the world, wishing you health, happiness, and many downloads. I will see you on the next episode. If you need a little bit of help with your podcast launch, growth, or monetization strategy, head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and get signed up for a free podcast profit potential discovery call. During this free 20-minute discovery call session, I'm going to analyze your podcasting brand and tell you where I think you're missing on an opportunity for profits. Next, I'm going to tell you exactly what I suggest that you do as your next step. If I've got an offer that would help you accelerate the process, we can discuss working together as well. So head on over to my website, www.podcastingbusiness.school, and click on the Discovery Call button to schedule your free Podcast Profit Potential Discovery Call.